Today we are going to focus on a very interesting and trending topic, leading change at scale, lessons from complex digital transformation in councils. I'm extremely excited today to welcome Dr. Tom Gao to the show. Tom, I'm going to hand over to you to give us a bit of an introduction about yourself. Tell us a bit where you are from, some of your career highlights, and anything you would like to share with the audience today.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Bianca. So my name is Tom Gao. I'm the Chief Technology and Digital Services Officer here at the City of Sydney. Probably just a little bit of background. City of Sydney is roughly about 26.15 square kilometres. We've got a population of roughly around 220,000 residents, a million visitors on a daily basis. And we have roughly around 33 suburbs within our local government area. We're also 20% of the state GDP and 7% of the national GDP as well. So let's say in a nutshell, I look after digital technology innovation as well as cyber security. Obviously, digital transformation is a significant portion of our transformation agenda, and I'm happy to be on the show today to talk about some of my experiences and looking forward to the questions.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Tom. We've had the privilege to have some discussions before, so I'm really excited for this interview today and excited to have you here with us. I'm going to go straight into our first question. How do you measure success for a council-wide transformation beyond just technology adoption? What KPIs or outcomes do you prioritize throughout your career? If you can give us a bit of insight into that specific question.
I feel that's a bit of a loaded question, very important question, but difficult to answer.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the KPIs, and really we're looking at the drivers for the transformation. So that starts at different level in my experience. Obviously, it's case by case from a technology initiative perspective, and you look at the merit of the business case prior to implementation. And typically, that's really based on what risk you're trying to address, and also financial benefit as a result of the projected implementation. And coming through during the implementation of, obviously, a lot of things will change. Now, you go through that journey and hopefully come out reasonably successfully on the other side. Now, coming back to the KPI question, how do you measure? So the question is about really the managing the promised initial business case that's promised by the business in terms of value to be retained at the start of the business case. That process needs to be managed internally as part of the enterprise PMO. And to be quite frank, so it's a process that we've got a lot of work to do internally to make sure that benefit realization is achieved. But that benefit realization can only be achieved not on the technology side, but on the business side, because quite often a lot of business case are really efficiencies promised by the business. So that's one aspect of it. So again, that's the individual technology. Now, if I also look at the benefit realization across the enterprise, quite often it's not just the individual business case, but if I was to look at across the organization, it's about the agility to change after many years of transformation, and the understanding of the need to change and the ability to adapt to the change in business process. That, to me, is a critical aspect of a success factor, which is often not articulated in the initial business case, as well as the benefit realization. And that, to me, is very much more important because of the agility to adapt to change than the initial business case, as well as the business realization.
That's amazing. Thanks for that answer, Tom. On the back of that, I'm going to go into the next question. In this fast-paced environment that we are in today, many leaders are under pressure to move fast with technology. From your experience, how do you strike the right balance between moving quickly and still putting the right processes and governance in place to make change sustainable.
Okay, so the question is about moving quickly and putting the right process in place to ensure we've got the right governance. Um, I think it's particularly important question in this day and age, particularly with all the conversation relating to AI and the need
Yes.
to adopt some sort of AI related solution. And I
Mm,
think my answer to that is um, things, as much as you want them to move quickly, it has to be carefully planned.
yes.
With technology implementations, there's often risk associated with it, and there's prerequisites and dependencies that need to be carefully planned out. And those things to be implemented always take time. And as part of the implementation, we need to think about our legislative requirements, our risks, our cyber requirements in terms of the security aspect, and what we need to do from an architectural perspective. So it's never about quick to react and putting in a solution. And I understand the need to do that from a business perspective. But I will push back to say, well, you haven't had a solution until now. What's the hurry, right? So
Yeah,
there's
makes
always
sense.
manual processes that can be employed and put in place to give the time allowed to do things carefully and in a stable way so that you've got a sustained implementation rather than ramming something in and realizing you've made some mistakes. And that causes potentially a bigger and broader problem as a result of that.
Tom, before I go into the next question, over the past year, we've had so many discussions with various different councils, from our council and transformation reference group meetups to customers, through just general discussions. And I think the next question is something, that really came up in a lot of these discussions. And I would like to get your input on this. How do you identify which legacy processes are ripe for innovation and which require more cautious evaluation?
Mm. So I think the legacy um, uh, process or application conversation is important. It um, it determines how we prioritize our funding across our capital work and investment. Now, I think there's a number of drivers for that. One is the risk factor. Have we got critical business process that's dependent on the system? If we don't do something about it, and the system goes down, business is going to have a significant impact. So that's one. Second is around the cyber side of things. The cyber risk is increasing in this day and age, and with legacy platforms, obviously we've got limited, if not any, cyber-related patches to those system platforms. But then you have to look at the peripheral environment to see if those particular systems are protected and if the risk is warranted to be prioritized to warrant immediate investment. So that's one side in terms of the risk aspect. And then the other side is in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of the benefit. By investing in that legacy process or system, are we likely to gain more opportunities in terms of business efficiency? There might be old legacy process there that's taking a lot of time to do, but with a new process, if we are to automate or integrate or just improve the experience of whatever was previously, we're able to see significant uplift in efficiency, and that efficiency can be reinvested elsewhere. So that is an important aspect. Another aspect is the bigger picture in terms of the digital transformation side of things, whether this particular component is a contributor to that transformation, and that transformation is really about the experience that we present for the community as well as present to the staff. So I think there's a multifaceted evaluation of the investment criteria and also the cost and risk of refreshing that process to the new process and how much effort is the business change ready. So I think it's never quite straightforward, but it's always kind of a washout of all these different um, uh, looking at it from different lens to determine the appropriate priority for investment.
Thank you so much for sharing your answer on that. I think the audience is going to find that extremely valuable. Going straight into the next question. What does future ready mean for a council in practical terms? Are we talking technology, people, processes, or all three? If you can shed some light on that question from your perspective.
Yeah. So I think in this day and age, future ready, often people think about AI and being ready for that. But to me, that's not the case. Being future ready is making sure we just talk about legacy systems and processes, making sure that's actively managed, looking at the integration between the different systems, looking at our data quality.
Yes.
Quite often we capture a lot of information, but the validation requirements and we're capturing a lot of information that we potentially don't need. So tightening that, getting that ready, and looking at our core systems to see if we have duplicate systems in various places, there's opportunity to consolidate and provide savings. And then looking at the cyber side of things, because
Mm.
a lot of work needs to be done and effort invested to tighten up our overall security. So all of those things needs to come together first for us to be having the conversation about AI, reinvesting into the legacy system, looking at business processes to optimize the processes, getting system integrated, improving on the cyber side of things.
From your perspective, what are the top three priorities for councils today to prepare for the next decade of service delivery? I think this is something that a lot of our council customers or our council members would really find insightful to hear that from
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So for the next decade, I think many councils will face financial constraints, particularly in terms of IT investment. I would say before investing in any technology, emphasis on the business process side of things because that doesn't take much. That's just the business, and you guys looking at what you currently got to optimize your existing business process. Cybersecurity is very, very important. It doesn't take much these days for someone to download the malware to have your entire environment compromised,
Yeah,
and that's weeks and
exactly.
months of downtime and effort. Um, Legacy systems and integration is another key component. We all have that. That's just part and parcel of an enterprise environment. But investing into those areas and making sure that as they are up to date and that the business is capitalizing on the investment as much as possible, I think is a priority.
Mm.
So those are three areas I would
Absolutely.
say. Yeah.
I'm going to go into our last question for this interview today, Tom. What advice would you give to other council leaders trying to maintain a forward looking strategy while managing day to day operational pressures? If you can just give some insight to the leaders in council from your experience, that would be great.
Yeah, so I mean, the day-to-day operational pressures, I mean, we all
Yeah.
experience that. I think it's really balancing the operational needs, the tactical needs versus the strategic
Mm,
needs.
mm,
And as much as possible, I would bring in some of the strategic initiatives into the operational, tactical side of things so that you're slowly chipping away at it. Um, these things are never easy,
mm.
and given all the hype around AI today, I think it's even more reason for us to be focused in our investment and to be focused in terms of the benefit to be gained of the effort that we
Yeah.
invest. Um, that's probably all I've got to say. Yeah.
That's amazing, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your insights on this crucial topic. Like I said before, we have so many members in our council meetups, etc., that is going to find this extremely valuable, and to the rest of the audience that is going to listen to this. Before we conclude today, is there any final message you would like to share with the viewers today?
I think just recently, I think one of my key focus is really on the organizational resilience
Mm,
side of
mm,
things. And what I'm seeing more and more, obviously, an increase risk from a cyber exposure perspective, but just as we as local government are facing that increase in risk,
Yes.
so are third-party suppliers to local government. And if anything, I often find that they are less prepared than we are as local government agencies. And we are seeing more and more incidents of third-party suppliers being compromised. So I guess the point I want to bring home is that resilience planning.
Mm.
What would you do if a key supplier of a service is compromised and their systems are down and they're not able to provide that service? So that operational planning
Mm.
side of things, I think, is often overlooked. So what I would suggest, and if I can get the message out there, is the importance of disaster recovery rehearsals. What would you do? And in most cases, in most organizations, if your network is down, your environment's down, you probably don't even know who to call because all your contacts are stored in those environments. You probably don't even know how to bring the team together because your Microsoft Teams is down.
Sure.
So, what is the process in a disaster to quickly bring everyone together, and what is your plan, and how are you going to manage that communication for your staff internally, as well as managing the public perception and communication associated with that? Have you got to develop a comms plan? What are what are the workflows in
Mhm.
terms of managing that particular scenario? So I just want to probably get that out there and get a bit of focus on that specific point.
That's amazing, Tom. I think a lot of people are going to go back to the drawing board after that, just to make sure, what are their processes leading up to something happening in that scenario. So thank you so much for sharing that. To our viewers, thank you for joining us today, especially our council viewers and members. We hope you found this interview insightful. We'd like to remind you to stay connected with BPM Real Talk. We have many more exciting episodes coming up, each with its own unique perspective and inspiring story to share. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us to stay updated with the latest episodes. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us today, for your time. We do appreciate it.